Welcome. Today, we are going to do a deep dive into project risk. I want you to understand that mastering how we define, analyze, and ultimately respond to risk, well, it isn't just about passing an exam. This is what separates a project manager who simply follows a plan from a project leader who can navigate uncertainty to absolutely guarantee success.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the why, the absolute core imperative of risk management. Then we'll get into the what, decoding the key parameters and the analytical methods you'll use. After that, we'll compare how these approaches look in both waterfall and agile environments. And then, crucially, we'll focus on the PMP mindset. This is to make sure you're not just learning facts, but you're actually learning to think like a seasoned professional.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the risk management imperative. Right here, we need to establish exactly why getting a firm handle on risk is the absolute foundation, the linchpin of any successful project. This quote, well, it really says it all, doesn't it? Managing risk isn't some bureaucratic box-ticking exercise. No, it's about developing the strategic foresight to see around corners. It is the core skill that allows you to steer a project through inevitable chaos and still deliver exceptional results, on time and on budget. Now, the key takeaway here is the fundamental shift from being reactive to being proactive. See, instead of getting blindsided by surprises, this framework lets us anticipate them. It's about looking at a potential threat, let's say a delay from a key supplier, and not just having a backup plan, but maybe even finding a better, faster supplier in the process. You see, you can turn a potential risk into a genuine opportunity. Moving on to Section 2, decoding risk parameters. Look, to analyze risk in a systematic way, we first need a common language. So in this section, we're going to break down the exact criteria we use to measure and discuss risk consistently across the entire team. The best way to think of these parameters is as the measurement units for risk. It's just like how we use feet or meters to agree on length. These parameters ensure that when one person on the team calls a risk high, everyone else knows exactly what that means. It gets rid of the guesswork and allows for sharp, clear, and defensible decisions. So these are the three core questions we have to ask of any potential risk. First, how likely is it? Second, if it happens, how bad will it be? And third, and this is the one people often forget, will we even see it coming? It's that third one, detectability, that's so crucial. A high-impact, high-probability risk is obviously scary, but a risk that you can't even detect until it's already too late, that is what can truly sink a project.
Now, this concept, this is a game changer. Risk appetite is not your call as the project manager. Let's be very clear about that. It's set at the organizational level. Think of it as the strategic guardrails for your project. Is your company a startup that thrives on high-risk, high-reward ventures? Or is it a government agency where stability and predictability are paramount? Your response to every single risk on your project has to align with that strategic stance. Okay, on to Section 3, qualitative versus quantitative. We've got a risk language established. Now let's examine the two primary ways we analyze it. It is absolutely crucial to understand that these are not interchangeable. They are two different lenses for two completely different jobs.
Here is the simplest way to remember the difference, and you need to lock this in. Qualitative prioritizes while quantitative calculates. Qualitative analysis uses expert judgment to quickly sort and rank risks, telling us which ones we need to worry about the most. Then, quantitative analysis can come in, using hard data to put a specific dollar or time value on the potential impact of those top-tier risks. You should view this process as a systematic filter. On any complex project, you are going to identify dozens, maybe even hundreds of potential risks. It is completely impossible to analyze and plan for all of them. This process is what prevents analysis paralysis. It forces us to focus our limited time, money, and resources where they will have the greatest effect, on the highest priority risks. And here it is. This is the workhorse of qualitative analysis, the probability and impact matrix, often called a heat map. It is so powerful because it is visual. You and your stakeholders can instantly see the risks that are plotted in that top right red zone. Those are your top priorities. Those are the ones that demand immediate, detailed action plans. Now we shift gears to a powerful quantitative tool. A Monte Carlo simulation moves us beyond a single deterministic number for our project's cost or duration. By running thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of computer-generated scenarios based on our risk probabilities, it gives us a probable range of outcomes. It directly answers critical business questions like, what is the actual probability that we will finish this project under our $10 million budget?
Theory is one thing, but practice is where it counts. So let's move into section 4 and see how all this risk analysis actually plays out in the two biggest project management frameworks in use today: the predictive world of waterfall and the adaptive world of agile. The difference in mindset here is absolutely fundamental. In a predictive waterfall world, our goal is stability. We seek to identify and control risk against a stable, approved baseline plan. But in an adaptive, agile environment, we actually embrace uncertainty as a given. The goal isn't to eliminate change, but to build a system that can adapt to it through continuous discussion and iterative delivery. Now, this next section is critical. We're shifting our focus from pure knowledge to the decision-making logic you're going to need to succeed on the PMP exam. You have to remember, the exam doesn't just test what you know, it tests how you think. Let's consider this typical exam question. You're being asked to connect a specific tool to a specific process. Answering this correctly requires you to precisely differentiate the tools used for qualitative prioritization from those used for quantitative calculation, or for that matter, other project functions entirely, like schedule or cost management. The key to getting this right on the exam, every single time, is to always connect the tool back to its core purpose. The probability and impact matrix is for prioritizing. That is a qualitative job. Monte Carlo is for calculating financial impact. That's quantitative. Making that simple, logical connection is the key to a direct and correct answer. Now, this is a higher-level concept, but it's vital. We said qualitative analysis is subjective. Well, that means it is vulnerable to human bias. Your role as a project manager isn't just to run the process. It's to facilitate it effectively. That requires you to actively identify and sometimes correct for the inherent biases of your experts and stakeholders to ensure your assessment is as objective as it can possibly be. And so, in our final section, we're going to elevate this discussion from mere tools and techniques to the professional attributes that define a master risk practitioner. This is what truly distinguishes a project leader from a project manager. Ultimately, the goal is to embody these principles. You see, a true professional doesn't just manage risk. They optimize risk responses to create and maximize value. They don't fear complexity. They navigate it with confidence. This is all about shifting your view of risk from a purely defensive tool to a powerful, strategic enabler of project success. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to consider. Your ability to answer this question, not on an exam, but in practice, through your actions and your leadership on every single project you run, that is what will define your career. That is the objective.